Welcome, everyone. Let's unpack a pretty significant development coming out of the U.S. Supreme Court. It impacts healthcare funding, specifically Medicaid. Our deep dive today is looking at a recent ruling, or maybe not a ruling, concerning organizations like Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, it's really fascinating what the court actually did, or rather didn't do. By deciding not to hear appeals from some lower courts, they effectively confirmed something.
Okay, confirmed what exactly?
That individual U.S. states, they can block Medicaid funding from going to Planned Parenthood and, similar health providers.
Mm-hmm. And this isn't totally new, right? This has been a fight for a while.
Absolutely. Years. This is really the latest step in this long-running legal conflict over states' rights versus federal health care rules.
Right. So our mission for you in this deep dive is pretty straightforward. We want you to quickly grasp what this is really about, understand the implications, and legally and for healthcare access on the ground, and also hear the different perspectives involved here, because they are quite strong.
Yeah, definitely. And to really get it, you kind of need to look back at the Medicaid Act itself. See, for a long time, there's been this free choice of provider clause in federal law.
Okay. Free choice, meaning?
Meaning, generally, if you're on Medicaid, you can choose any qualified healthcare provider. The core legal question recently has been, can a state decide a provider like Planned Parenthood is unqualified just because they also offer abortion services?
Even if the Medicaid money itself isn't paying for those abortions.
Exactly. That's the key. Federal funds already can't be used directly for most abortions, but the lower courts were split on whether states could cut all Medicaid funding based on that. And those were the appeals the Supreme Court declined to take up.
Okay, so by not hearing the appeals, the Supreme Court basically lets those lower court decisions, the ones that sided with the states, lets them stand.
Precisely. It's a subtle but really important point. It's not the court making a big declaration on the issue itself. It's them allowing that status quo from those specific circuit court rulings to continue.
Right. And that leads into the argument from the states and groups supporting this outcome, doesn't it? The indirect support idea.
Yes, that's central for them. You hear this from several Republican-led states, pro-life organizations. They argue that even if Medicaid dollars don't directly fund abortions, any public money going to an organization that also provides abortions, well, it indirectly supports the whole operation.
The idea that money is fungible frees up other funds.
That's the argument. That the funds are, fungible. So for them, this is a win for states' rights. It lets states control taxpayer money based on their policy choices or moral viewpoints regarding abortion.
Okay, so that's one side. What about the impact? If states can block this funding, what are groups like Planned Parenthood and reproductive rights advocates saying? What's the worry?
They've described the outcome as, devastating. Their main point is that this will seriously limit access to essential health care.
Especially for certain groups.
Yes, particularly for vulnerable communities, people in low-income situations. We're talking potentially millions who rely on these clinics. Planned Parenthood stresses that for many people, they're the main source, sometimes the only source, for things like cancer screenings.
Like breast and cervical cancer checks.
Exactly. And birth control, STD testing and treatment, basic wellness exams. They argue that cutting off these providers effectively creates healthcare deserts. People might have to travel much further or maybe just won't get the care at all.
It really does put a spotlight on these clashing views, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What counts as essential access and where state power ends and federal rules begin.
Yeah, we've seen this tension for ages, but this seems to empower states in a new way on this specific issue.
So connecting this to the bigger picture, what happens next?
Well, expect more political heat, definitely more legal battles probably. We're already hearing that states like Texas, Missouri, they're likely to move quickly on this. Others might follow.
And this is happening just as we head towards the 2024 election.
Right. And healthcare access, reproductive rights. These are already huge issues for the election. So this Supreme Court decision or non-decision, it's almost certainly going to become a major flashpoint in those debates.
So wrapping this up, it leaves a really important question for you, the listener, to think about. How might a decision like this in your state specifically affect healthcare access, the services available in your community? And maybe consider what the potential ripple effects could be, longer term, for how healthcare is funded and delivered more broadly. Something to mull over.